Indonesia may have left the Suharto era behind, but traces of the authoritarian regime still remain. Even after 10 years of democratic reforms, the military still permeates all levels of society, from politics to business. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask just what is the future for Indonesia's armed forces. In 2004, Indonesia's President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono decreed that all military-run businesses should end within 5 years. That deadline has now passed. Efforts have been made to reduce the number of companies linked to the armed forces. But as Howell Davis reports, separating the military from their money is proving difficult.
Indonesia's armed forces marching towards a new professional era. That's according to the military. Others have seen a different side.
Shoot! Shoot the man in the white shirt first. That's what the commander said. So those 11 troops shot in all directions. And I instantly fell at their knees, begging them, "Sir, sir, we aren't powerful." And I kept holding him, telling him, "No, no, sir."
Samat, who like many Indonesians only uses one name, was an eyewitness to what happens when commerce and the military mix. 4 people died in Alas Logo, a village in East Java, in 2007. Troops from a nearby Navy base opened fire on villagers protesting over land seizures. Samat's grandson lost his mother. Just 21 years old, she was shot in the back and killed. Locals say the troops were working for an agricultural company, Raja Wali, helping the firm take over land that the people say belongs to them.
The troops were trying to protect the tractors that were going to plow the land belonging to the villagers.
They were acting as security.
Yes, they were trying to protect the tractors that belonged to Raja Wali. I was standing here during the incident, and the Navy was there about 100 meters away, and then I get shot. And these are the scars from the surgery.
13 Marines were eventually jailed for the shooting. The longest sentence, just 3.5 years. Indonesia's military has been heavily involved in commerce since the battle for independence in the 1940s. Money was needed to buy arms and feed soldiers. After President Suharto came to power in 1967, companies allied to the forces expanded and multiplied. Military businesses became a byword for corruption and abuse, with senior officers often making fortunes. But in 2004, President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, himself a former general, issued a decree that was meant to change that. It said all military-run businesses must be transferred to civilian control within 5 years. Some say the president has largely been successful.
At the ground level, particularly outside of Java, I have to say that we have to tolerate some degree of low-paying soldiers involved in extra money funding, local de facto terms. But at least the senior ones, the pattern of gross corruption, mismanagement of the past is gone.
Activists point out that the president's decree was meant to bring a stop to all military businesses by the end of this year. That hasn't happened, with officers and men in the armed forces continuing to control both legal and illicit businesses.
I think they still have a problem with the informal sector of the military business activities, and they still have a big problem with the military business, the illegal of the military business activities. So this is a big challenge which government need to face.
The military says it has had to make exceptions to the presidential decree for charitable foundations and cooperatives. It claims such informal organizations help ordinary soldiers, whose pay has traditionally been very low. The armed forces say that most military businesses are like this one behind me, small co-ops selling discounted food and clothing to soldiers. But critics say that's not the whole picture.
Military cooperatives don't function like normal ones. They run business activities like private companies, in industries like public transport, the service industry, and in retail.
One example is found here in the city of Bandung. The airport taxis are run by an Air Force cooperative, Primkopau. This taxi driver asked to remain anonymous.
Every month we have to pay $25 for each car. That money goes to the managers of the cars who are in the Air Force. I don't know why we have to pay this money. I only know about it because the owner of my car tells me to pay it.
The military argues that it is making moves to clamp down on businesses. More than 1,000 have been closed or transferred from the direct control of the armed forces since 2004. But many senior figures say Indonesia's low military budget means some commercial activities have to be tolerated.
Because of our low defense budget, we get only about 40% of what we minimally require. We require at least a $12 billion budget for this vast country. We get only 4.5 billion. I have to say that at some levels, particularly outside of Java, I have to tolerate some degree of existing non-budgetary activities.
Such activities are more common in remote areas, like here in Aceh, in northwest Indonesia. There's a particularly strong military presence here. 3 decades of fighting with separatists in the province only came to an end in 2005. Here, critics say the military, known as the TNI, is exploiting the region's natural resources. The Indonesian military is having trouble shaking its addiction to money-making. The results are apparent on the hill behind me, where large-scale logging is taking place. Local villagers cut down the trees here, but they say it's TNI soldiers who are making the profits.
When the TNI buys log from the villagers, the TNI first store them, then they sell them. So for example, they buy already trimmed logs from the villagers and pay 1.7 million rupiah. Then they'll sell for about 3 million in the nearest city or in Bandar Aceh. They get large profits from this.
This logger asked for anonymity in case of reprisals. Such caution, as the East Java case shows, may well be justified. Local activists say the violence there that left 4 people dead was exceptional, but not surprising.
Especially when the TNI has business interests in conflict areas. They don't act like professional soldiers. The whole defense establishment stigmatizes people and treats them brutally.
Above the graves of the 4 dead is a battered Indonesian flag flying at half-mast, a symbol of the dangers of allowing military force and commercial interests to mix, and a warning perhaps to the Indonesian government that further reform is needed if such incidents are not to happen again.
This week, 101 East comes to you from Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, as we discuss reforms in the nation's military. Joining us on the panel now is CONNIE RAHAKUNDINI BAKRIE from the University of Indonesia.
Good morning.
We also have RAFENDI JAMIN from the Human Rights Working Group. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After the Suharto era has passed, we've had many years of reforms within the military itself as Indonesia progresses into a more democratic society. Connie, have the reforms been effective?
I think if I can just state on percentage, I think 95% or 97% of it is already done. Regarding the security sector reform, when we are talking about the reformation, actually, is everything almost be done by the military or armed forces.
But
would you agree with that?
I think we have to look at the scope of the reforms. When we're talking about reforms, the security sector, it's not only TNI, it's police forces, it is all intelligence forces, intelligence units, and some of the legal law enforcement officials, which is part of these security sector reforms. So to say 95% that reforms has been accomplished, I think that's too ambitious. This is a very serious problem that we have now because of the 1 step forward and then you have 3 steps backward and sometimes a stalemate for about so many years.
So sorry to interrupt you, but I mean 95% if we're really regarding about the security actors. when we are talking about the things that beside the security actors, I think Indonesia needs something like more than security sector reform, which is the civilian sector reforms. Because I think the problem is not only on the security actor sides, but more to the civilian side.
I think what you're saying is actually underlining my statement. The security sector reforms is not only defense, it is the whole system, including police forces, intelligence forces, and what he's saying that it is actually emphasizing or underlining my statement earlier that we cannot say 95% has been accomplished, But if you talk only about the TNI, then maybe we can be more specific on that. What is the reforms of the TNI? There are only three things in the reforms of the TNI. One, that military doesn't go to politics, military doesn't do business, and military should respect human rights. And if you look at these three, the goals of the reforms itself, then we will see what I said, one move forward and then 3 steps backward.
If you hold that thought, we'll come back to it in just a moment. We're going to have to take a very short break now, but when we come back, we'll have more on the reforms within Indonesia's military. Stay with 101 East.